In the darkness of the night, when the entire village was sleeping on the bed of sleep, a woman moaning in pain in a room was in a struggle between life and death. There was sweat on her forehead, her eyes were wide with fear, and a single prayer in her heart. "Oh Allah, keep my baby girl safe." A few moments later, the room echoed with a small cry. The baby girl had come into the world, but the mother she was supposed to go to had closed her eyes. The father, whom people called only Babaji, was crying bitterly with his wife's body in his arms. His tears were not stopping. He had lost his wife, his love, but in front of him a new life, a little daughter, whom he named Amna, became his world at that moment. Amna's childhood days were not full of happiness, but her Babaji never let her feel that she was deprived of her mother. When Amina was learning to walk and fell, Babaji would pick her up himself. When she woke up scared at night, Babaji would run his fingers through her hair and sing her a lullaby. But not every night was forever. Time passed, Amina started growing up. Babaji worried that his daughter had never had a mother's love. Maybe there was someone who could support her like a mother. After much thought, he got married again. The new woman, Rubina, remained gentle and compassionate in appearance, but there was never a place for Amina in his heart. When Rubina gave birth to 2 children, a son and a daughter, things changed completely. For Amina, the house, which had previously been filled with Babaji's love, now seemed strange. Following Rubina's instructions, her children began to hate Amina. The daughter would make Amina work all day, and the son. There was horror in his eyes, poison in his tongue. When Babaji saw the sadness in Amina's eyes, he could not say anything. But one day, he fell ill. Amina would sit next to him, hold his hands and pray. The doctors gave up hope. Babaji realized that she would not be a guest for long. So he left all his property, which although not very large, was enough for Amina, in the name of his daughter. He called an old lawyer, got the documents prepared, and on the last night, he held Amina to his chest and said only this: "My dear, you are not alone. Your father did not leave you weak." In the morning, Babaji had left this world. Silence fell on the house, but a storm was raging in Amina's heart. She had broken. There was no time to cry. As soon as Babaji was buried, the color of Rubina's eyes changed. The next day, the same Rubina, who used to pretend to be gentle, rained down on Amina. "You are unfortunate. You were the one whose mother died at birth, and now my husband too. Poor girl, all her luck has been eaten." Amina's heart sank. Her stepmother's face was now a symbol of horror. She would abuse her, pull her hair, and oppress her day and night. Amina would suffer in silence, because even her right to speak had been taken away from her. Her brother, who was now 18, would make Amina do chores like a job during the day under the pretext of work, and when he was angry, he would beat her. "You are 21, right? Just be patient now. The property in your name will also be in my name." Amina's sister would burden her with the housework all day long. From morning to evening, Amina would do everything: dishes, brooms, food, clothes, and in return she would only hear insults. But in all of this there was only one support: her friend Aisha. Aisha knew everything, but Amina always stopped her from telling anyone. But one day Amina's patience snapped. Her brother, mad with rage, was beating Amina. He had a wooden stick in his hand. Amina was lying on the ground, trembling. Aisha was watching this scene from the door. She could not bear it. She immediately picked up the phone and informed the police. Shortly after, the door burst open. The police entered, caught the brother, pushed Rubina, and rushed towards Amina. She was covered in blood, unconscious. The first word she uttered in the policeman's lap was, "Baba." Amna's body seemed lifeless. She could neither walk nor speak due to the intensity of the pain. The policeman carried her in his arms and brought her to the car. Aisha sat with her, holding her hand all the way to the hospital. Amna received immediate treatment at the hospital, but the wounds were not just physical. The pain in her heart could not be relieved by any medicine. When the doctors improved her condition a little, she just lay there silently, as if everything had ended inside. Aisha sat next to her and just stared at her face. Amna, everything will be fine now. I promise. But there was only desolation in Amna's eyes. As if she had truly believed that there was nothing good left in the world. A few days passed in the hospital. The police arranged for Amna to be temporarily sent to a safe place, so that she could be away from her cruel stepfamily. Aisha's parents also reached out. We will keep her as our daughter until she finds peace. Although Amina had found a safe haven, the fear inside was still alive. She would remain silent, sit in fear, and not speak without looking anyone in the eye. When Aisha's mother called her affectionately, she would lower her eyes. Often at night, she would walk with her feet pressed together, and go to Aisha's room and sit at her feet. I can't sleep, Aisha. I hear Baba's voice. He says I didn't leave you alone, but I am alone. Aisha would just hold her to her chest, and quietly stroke her back. On the other hand, the police had arrested Amina's stepbrother and mother and started an investigation. The entire street had come to know how an innocent girl had been wronged, but no one ever raised a voice. Everyone continued to live with their eyes closed, as if they had not seen anything. Now that the truth was out in the open, everyone felt ashamed. Some women in the neighborhood, who had praised Rubina until yesterday, were now cursing her. What kind of woman was she? She kept her husband's daughter as a maid. That girl remained an orphan even after having a mother. But Amina didn't care about these things. She only remembered her father's words. My daughter is not weak. You will learn to fight in time. But the strength to fight had run out now. One day, when Aisha's father wanted to take Amina out to meet his lawyer, Amina insisted. I don't want to go anywhere, I am fine. I don't need any property. Aisha asked in surprise. But this is your father's right, you're right. Amina simply said. He was everything to me. Now there is nothing left. That night Aisha cried a lot. She had realized that Amina's pain was not just the beating, but the loss of trust, love and protection. The next morning, a letter was placed on Amina's bed. Baba, if you are looking at me, give me courage. I am broken, shattered, but I remember your words. You used to say, Amina will never be weak. So I will not be weak anymore. I will stand with the truth. I will protect the trust you gave me. My silence will no longer be my weakness. It will be my testimony. Baba, I will fight now for you. Amina wrote the letter and looked at herself in the mirror. There were tears in her eyes, but for the first time there was light in them. At that moment, Aisha came to the door and said softly, The lawyer is waiting. Amina nodded slowly and took steps towards the door, for the first time. Without fear. There was a strange silence outside the court. There was fear in Amina's eyes, but she could also feel something burning in her heart. Perhaps the same emotion that had been suppressed for many years had now become a flame inside. Aisha's father held her hand. Son, don't be afraid to speak the truth. Every word your father gave stands with you today. Amina glanced at him briefly, and then looked at the ground. The door opened, and for the first time she entered a place where her rights were to be decided. Rubina, her son, and her daughter were already present in the court. Rubina's face was now wearing the same old mask, that of a victimized woman who considered herself free from all accusations. But the greed, arrogance, and venom in her eyes were still not hidden. Her lawyer was saying loudly, How can this property be given to a girl whose mental state is abnormal, who made false accusations against our client? Amina was listening but was silent. The court asked Amina to stand up. For a moment her legs trembled, her voice caught in her throat, but Aisha's eyes were on her. She controlled herself and said, My father did everything for me because he loved me. When he was alive, I never missed my mother. But as soon as he left, everything changed for me. Her voice was trembling, but the truths started to come out of her mouth one by one. They beat me, abused me, starved me, taunted me that I was a cursed person, a murderer. I kept washing dishes day and night, folding clothes, living as a living corpse under the roof. And the biggest crime was to seize my share of the property. Today I am not just standing for my rights. I am standing for my father's trust. The court was silent. The lawyer also fell silent for a moment. Rubina's son, annoyed, slammed the chair hard. It's all a lie. She's crazy. She just wants to take over her father's property. The judge angrily stopped him and restored order in the court. The court did not pronounce the verdict that day, but one thing was certain. Amina was not weak. She was no longer a fearful girl. For the first time, a light of confidence came to her face. Aisha came out and hugged her. I knew you would tell the truth. But where is the path to truth easy? When she returned home at night, an old letter arrived in the mail, addressed to Amina. When she opened it, it was written on the paper. If you don't stop, the end will not be good. Step relations don't just take blood, they take life too. Aisha took the letter in her hand, and then gritted her teeth in anger. These people are now threatening. But Amina, we will not stop. Amina looked at the letter, then said softly, I am not going to be afraid now. I will not be like them now, but I will fight against people like them. I will not remain silent. There was a softness in her voice, and a courage like a rock. That night passed, but everyone knew, the nights ahead would not be easy. In the morning light, Amina sat by the window, silently gazing at the sky. Her eyes were tired from the night, and her heart felt an unknown burden. The sun was not shining on her face, but rather a question. Aisha came from behind, quietly placing her hand on Amina's shoulder. Did you fall asleep? Amina nodded slowly, but the truth was that sleep had been creeping out of her eyes for several days. She got up quietly, got ready, and set out with Aisha to go to the lawyer's office. Nothing happened the entire way, but the same thing was on both of their hearts. Will justice still be possible? The lawyer said that Rubina was taking a new turn. They have filed a petition to declare Amina's mental state suspicious. They say she is in shock, unbalanced, and unfit to handle the property. Amina's heart sank. This is a lie. I am not sick, I was just quiet. Aisha got angry, but the lawyer stopped her. We will prove that your silence was not weakness, it was tolerance. On the other hand, there was a celebration in Rubina's house. Now see, the court will declare her insane. Then she will have neither property nor honor. Her son laughed. I have done another thing now. I have spread a false rumor about her friend. People are saying that they both wanted to run away. Rubina clapped her hands. Now it is not only the court, society will also consider Amina guilty. Meanwhile, when Amina returned home, she heard the whispers of a few women on the way. Isn't that the girl? The one on whom the case is going on? Yes, they say she was about to run away with her friend. Only then did the police come. Amina's steps stopped for a moment, as if the ice had melted in her heart. Aisha immediately grabbed her hand. Ignore it, this is all Rubina's trick. We know what the truth is. But the same old fear returned to Amina's heart. I have never harmed anyone, so why are you accusing me from all sides? That night, Amina's sobs filled the room. Aisha tried hard to silence her, but she kept repeating the same thing. How long will I fight? How long? My father is gone, who is mine now? Aisha held both her hands tightly. I am with you. As long as you want, I will fight, I will stand by you. We will not let the truth die. The next day, the court was to reappear. Rubina's lawyer presented false witnesses against Amina, a few women from the neighborhood who had been lured by money. We have seen it ourselves, she was abusive to her mother. Her brother always took care of her. Tears welled up in Amina's eyes. She was surprised that people could stoop so low. But that day, another witness came to the court, an elderly woman who had come to take care of Babaji during his last days. She stood up and said, I have seen with my own eyes how Babaji loved his daughter. And I myself signed the documents at his behest. Amina was his honor, his life. Rubina and her children wronged this girl after her death. Silence fell over the court. Rubina's face turned pale, and her son began to grind his teeth. The judge adjourned the hearing for a few days, but as he left, he said, "We will get to the bottom of the truth, and if it is proven that the girl was wronged, the culprits will be severely punished." When Amina came out, the sun's rays were falling on her face. She smiled slightly for the first time. Aisha laughed and said, "Now my face is bright, just like your father." Amina looked up at the sky with tears in her eyes. "Father, I will not give up. I will not let your promise be a lie." As the days passed, every moment became a new battle for Amina. She was not about to give up now, but the wounds that life had inflicted did not heal easily. There was some peace after the court appearance, but Rubina's conspiracies had not yet stopped. That night, when Amina and Aisha returned home, they found an envelope under the door. Amina opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a picture of her and Aisha, and below it was a sentence written, "We know how to turn friendship into enmity. Next time there will be a shroud, not a court." Amina's face turned pale. These threats were now beyond her ability to bear. "These people don't just want property, they want to finish me off." Aisha tore the picture up in anger. "Enough. Now they will have to answer." The next day, she went to the lawyer and a report was prepared on the threatening letters and pictures. The lawyer said in a stern tone, "This case is no longer just about property. It is a deliberate conspiracy to destroy an orphan girl. And now the court will not ignore all this." Meanwhile, Rubina, whose pride had been shattered in the previous court hearing, had now become even more dangerous. "If the court does not save us, we will have to make our own way." Her son, who had grown up with the seeds of hatred in his heart since childhood, had now taken the form of rebellion. Just once, that girl should be found in a deserted place, then we will see. The next evening, finding Amina alone, Rubina's son blocked the way. "Listen. The property in your name belonged to our father. You snatched it away." Amina wanted to back away in fear, but he moved forward. "I am giving you one last chance now. Otherwise, I will take you to a place where even the court will not be able to find you." At that moment, a sharp voice rang out, "I am calling the police right now." Aisha came running, mobile in hand. The boy tried to push her away, but some people nearby heard the noise and caught her. The police came and arrested him and took him away. That same night, Amna put her head on Aisha's shoulder and said, "If only my father were alive, then maybe all this wouldn't have happened." Aisha said slowly, "Your father is not here, but his shadow is in your spirit. You are fighting, he is watching you." The next morning, the court set a date for the final verdict in the case. Just 4 days later. Every moment was heavy. The truth was about to come out, but the danger was not yet averted. Rubina was now crazy after her son's arrest. Her intentions were dangerous. That night, Amna, in solitude, took out her father's old kurta which she had kept. Its scent was still there. She held the kurta to her chest and said softly, "Baba, the decision will be made in 4 days. I am tired but I have not given up. If the truth survives, then your love will win. If I lose, then just know one thing. I have never given up on the courage you gave me." A star was twinkling in the sky, as if someone had heard Amina's prayer. The day of judgment was approaching. Every hour, it seemed like a mountain was falling on Amina. But now she was no longer the girl who silently endured injustice. Now she was the girl who had stood up for her rights. That morning, when Amina left to go to court with Aisha, it started to rain on the way. As the sky was pouring, perhaps even the sky could not bear the tears of years of suffering. Sitting in the car, Amina said softly, "This rain is probably Baba's prayer. He is saying, I am with you." Aisha looked at her, her eyes moist. "And me too. This is not just your fight. This is the fight of every daughter who has been wronged by her step-relatives." As soon as she entered the court, Amina took a deep breath. Rubina was already there with her daughter. Her face was pale, but there was a strange fear hidden in her eyes. Her son was now in jail, and Rubina had to stand before the court herself. The judge called the parties and opened the files. The lawyers finished their arguments. The lawyer on behalf of Amina said in the last words, "This girl is not just an orphan, she is the true image of this society, who learned to live silently in the face of every oppressor. But when she spoke the truth. This property is a sign of her father. And this girl has a right, no one has a right over her." The courtroom was silent. Every eye was on Amina, and every heart was beating. The judge was silent for a moment, and then pronounced the verdict. The court, after reviewing all the evidence, testimonies and papers, has pronounced this verdict. The late father, in his full consciousness and knowledge, had transferred his property to his daughter Amina during his lifetime. The court grants Amina her full right. And those who wronged her shall be punished according to the law. Rubina and her daughter shall be sentenced to 3 years in prison, and her son shall be kept in jail for further proceedings on the crime of physical violence, conspiracy, and property grabbing. A calmness began to prevail in the courtroom. Aisha held Amina's hand, and tears of victory flowed from Amina's eyes for the first time. She stood up, and Baba's words echoed in the courtroom. "My daughter is not weak." When Amina returned home that evening, everything had changed. Now she was no longer just a wounded girl, she was a victor. But her victory was not only of the court, her victory was of silence, which endured years of oppression, and then one day found the courage to speak the truth. Aisha hugged her and said, "You not only won your right, you taught all the girls that silence is not weakness, but speaking the truth is strength." Amina looked up at the sky, and with a slight smile said only this, "Baba, I won." Few days passed. The court decision was no longer just a piece of paper, it had become a change in Amina's life. She was now the owner of the house, which had once become a prison for her. The property papers were in her hands, but the house, which had memories of her father in every corner and the wounds of her stepfamily relationships, now seemed empty. Aisha explained to her, "Amen, you can sell this house if you want. The walls here hurt you." Amen sat quietly in the courtyard of the house, where she had once washed dishes, slept on the ground and hidden her tears. "No, Aisha, I will stay here. This is my past and now this is my future. I will not run away from these wounds, but will erase them by enduring them." A few days later, Amen opened the room where her father's belongings were kept. In the closet were some clothes, an old radio, and a diary, written by Baba. She kept reading the diary all night. On every page, a father's love, prayers, and encouragement for his daughter were written. "My daughter may be alone, but if she remembers my words, no power in the world can break her." Tears welled up in Amina's eyes at this sentence. "Baba, you didn't let me break." At that moment, another thought came to her mind. As if she no longer had to live alone, but live for someone else. The next day, she took Aisha to a school for orphaned girls. There, she met the principal and said, "I want to do something for the girls here. Education, clothes, shelter. I will do whatever I can." The principal looked at her in surprise. "You yourself were a wounded girl. Now you are becoming a support for others." Amina said softly, "Because I know what wounds are. And I don't want anyone else to become Amina." She met the schoolgirls, talked to them. Some held her hand, some asked, "You were alone, so weren't you afraid?" Amina smiled and replied, "I was afraid, but courage comes when you feel that you are on the truth." A few weeks later, that same school had become her second home. The girls started calling her Amina Api. She not only taught them but also became their encouragement. Life had now returned to the house, but one night when she was sitting alone, there was a sudden knock on the outside door. When Aisha went to the door, an old woman was standing there. Dust was falling from her clothes, shame was in her eyes. I am Rubina." Aisha's senses were blown away. "You are here. You were punished." Rubina cried and said, "I was released. My son accepted his sentence. I was released with my daughter in just 3 months. I just want to say one thing to Amina before I die. Aisha called Amina. Amina came to the door, and upon seeing Rubina, she became silent for a moment. You! Rubina bent down and held Amina's feet. Forgive me, daughter. I have done a lot of injustice. I broke your father's trust, trampled on your innocence. But now I just want to ask for forgiveness before I die. Tears started flowing from Amina's eyes. I learned to hate you. But my father used to teach me that forgiveness is the greatest justice. She picked up Rubina and only said, Go ask forgiveness from Allah. I have forgiven. But now, never let injustice be done to the girls I have. Rubina bowed her head and left, and Amina closed the door and also closed an old book of her heart. Now she was not just the oppressed Amina. She was the Amina who shared a smile, the Amina who encouraged, the Amina who heard screams in silence. The days were now coming with a faint fragrance in Amina's life. The schoolgirls, Aisha's company, and the lessons written in Baba's diary. All of them had taken care of Amina. She had now become a reason for others to smile, but somewhere inside, a corner of her heart was still empty, the corner that had become deserted after the trust in relationships was gone. One day a man came to the school, middle-aged with a dignified face, a file in his hand, and a soft tone in his voice. Assalamu alaikum, I am Dr. Zaid. I work with an NGO in the city. We have come to know that Amina Sahiba has managed the school here in a very beautiful way, so we have come with an offer of financial assistance. Amina sat down with Aisha and met her. Doctor, we don't need any help. We are happy with even a little. Zaid smiled and said, Help is not asked for, it is felt. I have only come to cooperate and maybe to learn too. Amina glanced at Aisha. Aisha's eyes were a little mischievous. Over the next few days, Zaid kept coming to school. Sometimes he would bring books for the girls, sometimes small gifts. And every time he would try to learn something from Amina. You have not hated anyone after going through so much. How is that possible? Zaid asked one day. Amina looked up at the sky silently. Maybe because hatred gave me nothing. And forgiveness gave me everything back. Zaid was impressed. And Amina was confused. One day Aisha just started talking. What are you thinking? That's it. Zaid Sahib. It's strange, I don't feel any threat from them. Aisha laughed and said, Because they are not a threat, they are a comfort. Amina asked thoughtfully, Can I trust anyone again? Aisha held her hand. You forgave, tolerated, encouraged. Why are you afraid of love now? A few days later, Zaid called Amina to the school garden. There was a light fragrance in the air, and the evening sun seemed very soft. Amina ji, I know what you have gained and lost from relationships. But if you allow me, then I want to be that part of your life that shares your sorrows, and walks with you in silence. Amina remained silent for a few moments. You know my past. My wounds, my brokenness. Zaid said softly. I didn't come looking for a princess. I came looking for a girl who kept herself alive by fighting alone against the world. There were tears in Amina's eyes. But this time these tears were not of fear, but rather the answer to the question that had been locked in her heart for years. Will anyone accept me as I am? That evening Amina neither said yes nor no. She just said, I need time. Because the relationship I will be in now, I will not be in it as a source of fear or support, but as a source of love and trust. Zaid smiled quietly. I will wait. And that moment was perhaps the most beautiful moment in Amina's life. Because now she was going to be the reason for someone else's smile, not just her own. Zaid's words had sunk deep into Amina's heart. I have come to accept you, including your past. But Amina was still fighting with herself. Everything life had taught her, before every joy, there was a shadow of pain. That night, when she sat with Baba's diary, she started reading it once again. Daughter, if ever someone comes into your life who does not heal your wounds, but tries to understand, then understanding is the only truth. Amina closed her eyes. Baba's words seemed to match Zaid's words. The next day there was a small function at school. A small surprise from the girls. There was a banner on which it was written, "Amina, we do not miss our mother. A light like you is enough for us." Tears fell from Amina's eyes involuntarily. Zaid was standing nearby. She said slowly, "The light of all this itself has come out of a darkness. You are very special, Amina." Aisha came closer and said, "Zaid has told me something. He wants to have a relationship with you. But he is waiting for your decision." Amina fell silent. "I want that if I say yes, then that relationship is not for support nor is it full of mercy. I want this relationship to be one of respect, of love. And I want Zaid to come only for me, not to bring my past, but to share my future." Aisha held his hands. "Then tell him yes." That evening, Amina called Zaid to the school garden, where they had first met. "Zaid Sahib." "Zaid, just Zaid." He smiled. "Zaid." Amna lowered her eyes and said, "If you really understood my wounds, you would know that this relationship would not be ordinary for me. I am learning to trust. I am learning to believe in love. If you are ready to go on this learning journey with me, then I am ready." Zaid said slowly, "I was always ready, Amna." And that moment was not just for two people, but the announcement of a new life for a girl. A few days later, Aisha suggested holding a small wedding. Just close people, schoolgirls, and some prayers. Nothing much. But when this news spread in the neighborhood, some tongues started to talk again. "Hey, the same girl who was fighting a case in the courthouse. Now she is marrying an NGO worker. Who knows what her real past is?" One day, Amna heard some women talking in the same way at the school gate. Their words hit her heart like an arrow, but this time she was not silent. She went closer to them and said softly, "I am the same girl who spoke the truth in court. I am the same girl who did not hide her wounds, but showed them. And I am the same girl who is now going to start a new relationship, believing in herself without any support. If you are ashamed of my story, then don't teach your daughters to hide their pain." The women fell silent, and Amina turned back confident. The wedding was solemn, simple, beautiful, and full of prayers. A picture of Baba was placed among the flowers. Zaid stood before her and promised, "I will never let her feel alone." And Amina, holding Zaid's hand for the first time, bowed her head and said only, "Now I am with you, but never without leaving myself." When Amna first stepped into Zaid's house after her marriage, she felt a strange sense of peace and a slight sense of trepidation. The life she had lived in pain until now was now to be shared with someone, in a completely new way. Zaid's house was small but full of love. Her mother was a gentle, quiet, and pious woman who embraced Amna with prayers as soon as she saw her. "Daughter, my Zaid was always alone, now he has found light in you." Amna folded her hands and said only, "I want to be your daughter, not your daughter-in-law." The first few days were beautiful. Zaid would always spend time with Amna after office work, making plans for the schoolgirls, and their love gradually deepened. But where there is light, there is darkness. One day, Zaid's cousin's family came to their house. They were the same people who had always taunted Zaid's mother, and now they couldn't accept Amina comfortably. "Isn't this the same girl?" She stood before the judges. "It's strange making a girl with such a past a daughter-in-law." Amina listened to them but remained silent. Zaid looked at them all, and holding Amina's hand said, "The girl who fought for the truth is the pride of my life, not a shame." But a little bit of a silence fell in Amina's heart. Will people ever let her be free from her past? One day when she went to school, the girls ran to hug her. "AAP, we thought you would forget after marriage." Amina laughed. "How can I forget all of you? You are all my reason for living." She started to take back the school, but now everything seemed new. Before she was just fighting for survival. Now she wanted to leave something for the future. A few days later, Amina learned that Zaid's office was facing financial difficulties, and he was feeling stressed. "I want you to stay away from all this. I don't want you to be a part of these problems," Zaid said. Amina placed Baba's diary in front of him. "Zaid, I am the daughter of the woman who gave birth to me in poverty and left this world, and the daughter of the man who protected me until his last breath. I am with you, in every situation." Zaid looked into Amina's eyes and hugged her. "You are my light, Amina." In those days, Amina also started a work. She started opening a welfare institution for orphaned and helpless girls, where they could be given education, skills, and protection. "My goal is not just to live, but to teach others to live." People now know her as the Amna Foundation. What they used to call a girl with a scarred past. Now those same people remember her with pride. One day, Aisha came to visit and said to Amna, "Remember when you used to cry and say that no one would understand? Now people come to learn from you." Amna smiled and said, "Because I didn't stop crying. But now there is strength in my tears, not weakness." And Amna's life was now beginning to be complete. It was an autumn morning. The leaves of the trees were rustling and falling to the ground, as if time had begun to change its clothes. Amna was making breakfast. Zaid was busy preparing to go to the office. "You look a little tired today, Zaid." Zaid shrugged with a slight smile. "Maybe you just didn't get enough sleep." But Amna's eyes couldn't ignore the light circles under her husband's eyes. That day passed, but when Zaid returned home, his breathing was rapid, and sweat was on his forehead. "Zaid, are you okay?" "Just tired." "Nothing." But suddenly at night, Zaid felt a severe pain in his chest. Amna panicked and immediately called an ambulance. The journey to the hospital, with its beating heart, had become heavier every moment. After the checkup, the doctor said, "Zaid's heart pressure has increased significantly. He needs complete rest and medication. He will have to stay in the hospital for a few days." Amina's eyes became moist. She, who had been sharing the pain of others until yesterday. Today life had put her to the test again. Zaid was lying quietly in a hospital room. He looked weak, but his eyes still held the same peace for Amina. "I will be fine, Amina. Don't cry." Amina held his hand and said, "Living without you is now dark for me. You are my light." She sat next to Zaid in the hospital for the next several days. Foundation, school, home. Aisha took care of everything. People started talking again. "How long has it been since we got married? And look, the ordeal is not ending. First the courts, now the hospital. This girl is probably just unlucky." But Amina was no longer the Amina who used to remain silent. She said one day while talking to the media, "Whatever came into my life brought trials. But every trial gave me new strength. And if my husband is sick, then this is my duty. Love is not just the name of happiness. It is the name of being together in sorrow." Zaid heard this from the hospital bed, and his tears flowed. "Amina, you are not just a wife. You are the prayer that has supported me at every turn of life." In a few days, Zaid's condition started to improve. The doctors allowed him to go home, but with complete rest. On his return home, the entire atmosphere was quiet but gentle. Amina had decorated a separate room for Zaid. She said softly, "This is not a room, my heart is. For your protection." Zaid held her hand and said, "You are not just light. You are the umbrella that has been with me through the heat, the storm, in every season." In those days, Amna made a big decision. She completely entrusted the management of the foundation to Aisha, and made Zaid's care her center. "I want the world to be only you now." Aisha smiled and said, "Seeing your relationship, I believe that truth and patience always win." Zaid's health was better now. Day by day, he was returning to life again. But this return was not just physical. This return included Amina's prayers, her sleepless nights, and her silent prayers. One morning, Zaid and Amina were sitting in the garden. The sunlight was soft, The air was quiet. Zaid asked Amina, "Sometimes I think we have everything. But can we give our all to someone?" Amina looked at him questioningly. Zaid said softly, "I want us to adopt a girl. An orphan girl who is like Amina, but to whom we can give Amina's courage." Amina's eyes filled with tears. "You heard the voice of my heart. I often thought that there was someone to whom we could give the love that we never received." A few days later, the two of them went to an orphanage. There were many girls there. Every face a story, every eye a question. A little girl sat in a corner, silent, frightened. The clothes were old, her hair disheveled, but there was an unfamiliar light in her eyes. "What is your name?" Amina bowed her head and asked. The girl bowed her head and said, "Ayla. Why don't you talk to anyone? Everyone scolds you. They say I talk too much." Amina extended her hand. "Come on, no one will say anything to you now." Ayla hesitantly took Amina's hand. And then, as if years of silence were broken by a touch, Zaid and Amina completed all the legal procedures, and a month later, Ayla came to their house. A new life, a new relationship. Ayla was very shy at first. She would never go near anyone. Sometimes she would wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Zaid and Amina spent time with her. In games, in stories, in sleep, in smiles. Amina saw her own childhood in Ayla. One day, Ayla hugged Amina at night and said, "Can I call you Amma?" Amina's eyes filled with tears. "I've been waiting for this moment for so long, son." Amina's eyes filled with tears. "I've been waiting for this moment for so long, son." At that moment, the emptiness inside Amina was filled. A wound that time had healed. Now a new flower had bloomed on it. The flower of motherhood. Zaid took Ayla in his arms and said, "Now this house is complete." With Ayla's arrival, their house was filled with laughter. The schoolgirls started giving Ayla the love of big sisters. And a new campaign began in the foundation. Adopt, Mend, Save. Amina, speaking at a conference, said, "I was an orphan girl. Then I became a wife. Then I founded a welfare organization. And today I am a mother. I had nothing. But what I have now is all the result of the prayers of others." The people kept clapping. But Zaid had only tears in his eyes. Tears of pride. Life was going smoothly. Ayla was now going to school, Zaid's health had improved, and the foundation had become a symbol of goodness throughout the area. One day, Ayla came home from school feeling a little quiet. "What happened, son?" Amina asked lovingly. "Today someone said that I am abandoned. And that you are not my real mother." Amina's heart trembled. She hugged Ayla to her. "Son, the relationship that is formed from the heart is the real one. The mother who gave birth to you gave you the world. But the mother who raised you, taught you, loved you. She gave you life." Ayla saw Amina's tears and said softly, "Then promise you will never leave me." Amina immediately kissed her forehead and said, "Never, son." But the next day, a strange woman came to the door of the foundation. Exhaustion on her face, an old bag in her hand, and a sadness in her eyes. "I have to meet Ayla. I am her mother." Both Zaid and Amina fell silent. Aisha grabbed Amina and took her inside. Where did this woman suddenly come from? And if she is truly Ayla's mother, then? A storm was brewing in Amina's heart. Was nature coming to take away the daughter who had filled her empty heart? This woman, Ruxana, said that she had left her daughter in an orphanage due to extreme poverty and misery, but now things are a little better, and she wants to take her daughter back. Zaid asked softly, "After so many years?" Ruxana had tears in her eyes. "Then I had nothing. Now I have a small house and a conscience, which beats me every day. I just want my daughter back." The court had to knock. Both sides had to be heard. Amna, who was in Ayla's every breath, and Ruxana, who was Ayla's biological mother. The court heard both. But the decision was left to the child's welfare. Ayla will stay where she is happy. But she will definitely be told the truth. When Amna explained all this to Ayla, she remained silent for a long time. Then she asked softly, "Do I have to meet him?" Amna said softly, "It is your right, son." Ayla met Ruxana with Zaid and Amna. There was regret in Ruxana's eyes. "I had to leave you, daughter. But seeing you happy has lightened my heart. Wherever you are, be happy." Ayla said just one sentence. "A mother is someone who gives her everything and doesn't ask for anything. And for me, she is the only one." Amina. Ruxana left crying. She couldn't embrace Ayla. But perhaps for the first time she was satisfied with her heart. Amina rested her head on Zaid's shoulder at night and said, "I was afraid that I might lose Ayla. But my daughter gave me today what no one has ever given me. Trust, acceptance, and boundless love." Zaid kissed Amina's forehead and said, "Now no one can break us. Because our relationship is no longer based on trials, but on faith." In the room was the same old mirror, in front of which Amina often stood silently as a child. Now in front of this mirror stood Ayla, a beautiful, dignified and serious young man. Amina and Zaid were sitting outside on the lawn, and there was a special silence in the atmosphere of the house, as if a decision was about to be made. Zaid said to Amina, "Have you ever thought, that little scared girl is thinking of leaving us today?" Amina had a smile on her lips and moisture in her eyes. "We adopted her to raise her, not to tie her down." A few moments later, Ayla came slowly and stood silently in front of the two of them. "Mom, Dad." "Yes, son. I want to tell you both something." Zaid held her hand. "Say, son, everything you say is on our hearts." Ayla said softly, "I want to change someone's life now too, just like you changed mine. I have to take full responsibility for the Amina Foundation. But not just to run an NGO, but for every girl who is Ayla, or was once Amina." Amina's tears flowed. "My daughter, my Ayla, now she has become what I wanted to become." Zaid hugged her and said, "We are with you in every step you take." Several days passed, and the foundation's activities began to increase. Ayla focused on education, protection, and skills. She herself took classes, played with children, and told her story many times. One day, a 10-year-old girl was brought to the Saman Foundation, whose parents had died in an accident, and her relatives began to torment her, considering her a burden. Ayla kept her with her, and within a few days the little girl started smiling again. Zaid said to Amina, "It seems Ayla has found her Ayla." Amina smiled and said, "And my prayers have found their way." That night was special. Amina was looking at the sky from her bedroom window. Baba's picture was on the table. "Baba," you said, "if life ever shines, then be a light for someone else. Today my daughter is a light. And I, complete." Ayla had now become the face of the foundation. Media, educational institutions, social platforms. Everywhere her gentleness, intelligence, and compassion were being praised. One day at a seminar, Ayla met Rayhan, a simple, moral, and quiet young man who worked for orphans. When he said during his speech, "If there is no shadow from parents, life is in search of a shadow. But if someone recognizes pain, he can become a shadow for others." Ayla's heart stopped beating. After the seminar, the two had a brief meeting. Rehan asked, "Are you really that Ayla from the Amna Foundation?" Ayla smiled and said, "And are you the Rehan who teaches children to love books?" Smiles, silence, and eye contact. This is how stories begin. Over the next several weeks, Rehan and Ayla met often. Sometimes at an event, sometimes at the hospital for a child's treatment, and sometimes in a small room, where they both dreamed of building a skills school for orphans together. Amina felt it all. A mother's heart is very deep. One evening, Amina called Ayla to her room. "Son, the faces of those who love do not hide, they shine. Is that boy the answer to your prayers?" Ayla's eyes narrowed. Amy. That Rayhan understands my story. He has heard my silence. Amina said only this. If he wants you only because of your name, honor and gentleness, then that is love. But if he accepts you with your past, then that is fate. A few days later, Rayhan decided to talk to Zaid. I know Isla's past, but to me, she is what she has made herself. If you allow me, I want to live my life with her. Zaid silently looked into her eyes and said from the depths of his heart, Amina's choice is never wrong, and Isla is the fruit of Amina's prayers. Everything seemed beautiful, but meanwhile, Amina started having some stomach pains. The doctors checked her up, and the report came out. Amina has signs of cancer in her body, and it has spread a lot. The report slipped from Zaid's hand and fell to the ground. Both Rayhan and Isla were shocked. No, Mom is fine, it's just a mistake, the report must have changed. But the truth was, Amina had been a guest for a few days now. Amina looked at everyone in silence and said slowly, Don't cry. My life is complete. Now I have to go. But I am leaving you all to live. Ayla, who had yearned for love since childhood, was now seeing the whole crowd of love. And for the first time she wanted to stop someone from leaving. Ami, I have to stay in your lap, forever. Amna hugged her. You are now a canopy yourself, daughter. I am proud of you now. And now, you have to marry your Ayla yourself. After Amna left, the house had become as if silent. Her scent in the room, her folded sheet on the bed, and that old diary kept by the window. Everything had become a sign of an agreement. Zaid had fallen silent, as if he had buried his entire voice with his companion. Isla sat at the door many times and wished only this. I wish a door would open and Amna's voice would come. Isla's son, drink tea. But now she only came in dreams, in the moisture of tears, in the warmth of prayers. As Amna wished, Isla and Rayhan's marriage took place simply. No big ceremony, no noise, no rituals. Just an intention, a prayer, and a silent smile. On the wedding day, Isla wore the white sheet given to her by Amna. The chatter had the scent of mother, and her voice in her heart. Son, if there are tears in your eyes, then go and ask about someone's pain. Because whoever loses his mother's shadow is born to become someone's shadow. After the marriage, Rayhan held Isla's hand and said, From today on we are not just husband and wife. We are the hope of those children, whom time calls orphans, and who are waiting for angels like Amina. After the marriage, Zaid gently placed his hand on Rayhan's shoulder. My daughter is now in your hands, but not just for protection, for a mission. Amina's mission, Amina's light. A few months later, the new block of the foundation had been built. It was inaugurated under the name Amina Women's Home, where helpless girls were not only given shelter, but were also taught, instructed, and given confidence. On the day of the inauguration, Isla wore a white dress, the same style, the same dignity that Amina used to have. She stood at the microphone and said, If I am here today, it is only because my mother taught me to live by hiding her tears. My mother has left this world, but her prayers, her scolding, her love, still walk with me today. I promise on my mother's grave. Amina, I will never let your light go out. There were tears in people's eyes. And behind the clouds in the sky, it was as if the sun had become damp. Rayhan lit a lamp in front of Amina's picture, and said, The daughter you gave us is not a daughter, she is a revolution. Isla sits among the girls in the foundation's new classroom. A girl asks, Appa, did your mother love you so much? Isla smiles, her eyes welling up. No, she didn't just love. She was my refuge. And now I have come to be your refuge. Then Amina's voice, as if dissolving in the air. Isla's son, I'm still. In every shadow of yours, in every prayer, and in the face of every girl who was once about to break. But you held on. Ayla and Rayhan had been married for 3 months. Life was starting to feel a bit more peaceful now. Foundation work in the morning, time with the children in the evening, and praying secretly at Amina's grave at night. This had become Ayla's routine. Rayhan was proving to be an ideal husband to Ayla. Gentleness, love, and complete trust. Just as Amina's prayers had become a shadow at every step. But life is never complete. Where there is a lot of fragrance, the air is often hot. One day a strange woman came to the foundation. A veil on her face, a stern voice. "I need to speak to the owner of this place." "Ayla." Ayla called the woman in. "Yes, I am Ayla." "Say it." The woman slowly removed the veil. And Ayla's face lost its color. You. Yes, you recognize me, right? That shadow from your past. That you had buried." Rayhan came from behind. "Ayla, are you okay?" Ayla was speechless. But the woman spoke. "My name is Soraya. I am this Ayla's aunt. And I am the only person who heard the last words of Ayla's mother, Ruxana." Rayhan said in surprise. "But Ayla's mother? She is dead, yes. But she had said while dying that Ayla's life would one day collide with the truth wrapped in poison. And that day is today." Rayhan and Ayla were both silent. Soraya took out an envelope. "This is the letter that Ruxana had written for you before she died. But she died before giving it to me. Years later I found you. And I have to tell you this truth today." Ayla took the letter in her hand, but her hand was trembling. "If you don't read this, then your foundation may be shaken. What you think is the truth could also be a lie." Ayla looked at Rayhan. "Should I read it? Or should I close this door, Rayhan?" Rayhan said softly. "Whatever shakes you, that is your origin. Read it and whatever happens, we are together." Ayla opened the envelope with trembling hands. And the words blurred in her eyes. "My daughter Ayla, I'm not who I told you. I did not leave you. You were taken away. That home, that orphanage, that deprivation. All this was not in my control. Your father took you away and put you in an orphanage, so that I could never find you. Yes, your father. The one whose name you have never even heard of. He is still alive today. And if you want to know the truth, then one day you will have to face him. Because that person is now running a welfare institution. And is very close to you. Forgive me, daughter. Your mother was just an oppressed person. But you are a reality. Your mother, Ruxana." The letter ended. But Ayla's heart almost stopped. "My father made me an orphan. He left me at the mercy of others despite everything." Rayhan held her. "What will you do now?" Ayla slowly closed her eyes. And then said, "Now I can't live without seeing this person. Now I'm not just my mother's daughter. I'm a woman in search of the truth." Ayla was addressing Amina at the grave. "Mother, forgive me. I am setting out on a journey again. But this time your shadow is not with me. Your training is with me." A ray flashed through the clouds in the sky. As if Amina was answering. "Go, daughter. The light of truth always shines from my lamp." The next day, Ayla read that letter over and over again. Every word pierced her heart like a knife. Every line shook her being. Rayhan silently agreed. But now there was a new fire in Ayla's eyes. The fire that only burns when a person loses their self. "Rayhan, I have to face this person. I want to see in his eyes. Why did he humiliate my mother? And me, an orphan?" Rayhan started searching through the files. According to the information given by Soraya, that person was now the head of a welfare organization in the city, which worked for orphan children. What kind of joke was this? The one who abandoned his daughter was now becoming the father of other people's daughters. The next day, Ayla, dressed in simple clothes, covered in a burqa, was standing at the gate of that organization with Rayhan. A name was flashing on a board. "Shafkat House, by Mr. Suleiman Iftikhar." Rayhan said softly, "This is the person." Isla's steps seemed to freeze. They were silent for a few moments. Then she moved forward. A wound was waking up with each step. Entering inside, she asked the woman at the reception, "I want to meet Suleiman Sahib." "Who are you?" "I'm just a daughter who wants answers to questions." The woman let herself in. And after a while a door opened. A dignified, serious face. White hair, glasses, and a blank face. "Yes, please." Isla's steps trembled. Her breath hitched, her heart ached. "Are you Suleiman Iftikhar?" "Yes, it's me." "Do you know Rukhsana?" Suleiman's face seemed to change color. "Rukhsana?" "Yes, Rukhsana, your wife, whom you abandoned, and whose daughter you orphaned. And that daughter today is standing in front of you." Silence fell in the room. Rayhan stood silently, and Suleiman's eyes were filled with surprise, regret, and uncertainty. "Ah, Isla." Suleiman's voice trembled. "Yes, I am the one whom you placed at the door of the orphanage." Suleiman fell to the ground as soon as he sat down in his chair. "Son, I saved you." "Don't say son. I am the girl whose mother you killed silently by scorning society, and whom you left in the world without a name." Tears began to flow from Suleiman's eyes. "Do you know why I did this? To save my family, my status, my name. My marriage to Rukhsana was secret. When she told me she was going to become a mother, I became a coward and made you an orphan." Isla's voice trembled. "And today, you are sitting as a sympathizer for other people's daughters? Don't you look for me in their faces?" Suleiman bowed his head and started crying. "It happens. Every day, every night. This institution, this charity. All is atonement. But you are my real reckoning." Isla was silent for a few moments, then spoke softly. "Suleiman Iftikhar cannot forgive you, but I will not become a coward like you. You were dead to me, and a daughter has no connection with a dead father." Solomon bowed his head and said only this: "Your mother was great, and you were even greater. May God grant that your shadow may remain over the girls that I took from you." The day was breaking. Children were playing in the foundation lawn. Rayhan was taking classes, and Isla was looking at the land purchase papers for a new building. At that moment, a letter was received in the foundation office. "Notice from the court." Isla read it, the words pulling the ground from under her feet. "After the death of Mr. Suleiman Iftikhar, the founder of Shafkat House, his property and institution are being handed over to his son Junaid Suleiman, who claims the right to your foundation." Rayhan asked in shock. "Suleiman is dead?" "Yes, and his son Junaid, who was abroad, has now returned, and is claiming possession of our foundation." A few days later, Junaid arrived at the foundation, tall, arrogant, and with venom in his eyes. "So you are Isla, the orphan who considers herself Amna's heir." Isla controlled herself. "This place is not the legacy of your pride. It is the shadow of those children, from whose heads the umbrellas have been snatched." Junaid laughed sarcastically. "My father had bought this land. You cannot run anything here without my consent. Either name this foundation in my name, or else fight in court." Rayhan went ahead and said, "This institution is not the legacy of any father. It is the prayer of a mother." Junaid said angrily, "And cases are not won with prayers. They are won with papers." A few days later, news started coming in the media. Controversy over Isla's possession of the foundation. Solomon's son Junaid is seeking justice. Is Isla an illegal occupant? The day had become a test for Isla, the girls who had considered her as their mother. Now there was fear in their eyes. Rayhan said, "We will not back down. This is not just a war of land. This is a war of ideology." One night, Isla was sitting alone in the office. A candle was burning in front of Amina's picture. "Ami, This land is not mine. This is the land of your dreams. Should I lose it? Rayhan came and held her hand. I can't snatch anything from your hand. When you have the training of a mother and the prayers of a daughter. Courtroom. Junaid's lawyer presented the papers. All this property was in the name of Suleiman Iftikhar. And now his legal heir is Junaid Sahib. Ayla's lawyer stood up. Sir, we are presenting to the court the registered will, which Suleiman Iftikhar had submitted 2 days before his death, in which he had left all his welfare property, in the name of Ayla Amina. Junaid was shocked. This is a lie. The judge opened the file, saw the seal, read the signatures, and pronounced the verdict. According to Suleiman Iftikhar's will, this institution will remain the sole property of Ayla Amina. The case is closed. A new board was put up outside the foundation, a Mana Women and Child Home. Below it was written, where every orphan girl finds the shadow of her mother. After winning in court, Ayla decided that now this institution would not only be a support for orphan girls, but also for mothers who are fleeing oppression and seeking shade. A few days later, Rayhan gave Ayla a file. Today I found a girl who had been sitting alone on the side of the road for the past 2 days. No one knows where she came from. She just repeats one name. Hannah. Ayla immediately went to the girl. A tiny soul, dirty clothes, fear in her eyes. But there was something on her face that pierced Ayla's heart somewhere. What is your name, son? Hannah. The girl said in a trembling voice. Where is Mom? Mother has fallen asleep. For a long time. No one has woken her up. Ayla took her in her arms, as if she had touched herself. In a few days, Hannah learned to smile at the foundation, started calling Ayla mother. And the other girls called her little sister. Rayhan placed flowers on Amina's grave one evening, and said, Amina, mother. Alina has become a mother now. Your training made a daughter a mother. And that mother sheltered a world. Last scene. Alina was sitting in the foundation courtyard with Hannah in her arms. The girls were playing around. One of them came and asked, Appa, haven't you ever felt afraid? Being alone, taking care of everything. Ayla smiled. I was scared. But a mother's prayer makes a person a warrior. I was never alone. Amy's cloak, Amina's fragrance, and all of your smiles were with me. Hannah held her face and said, Amy, can I also become a mother one day? Tears flowed from Ayla's eyes. Son, only those who endure pain become mothers. And there is that light in you, which will one day become a lamp for other girls. This story wasn't just Ayla's. It's the story of every girl who heard the taunts of her stepmother, who lost her father's shadow, and who, even after every injustice, did not stop loving, because she knew, living without a mother is hard, but becoming like a mother is a revolution.